I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Marion County Commission meeting Monday, September 22, 2025, 12:30 p.m. Start off with public forum if there's anybody in the public that would like to speak or anybody online. All right. Close the public forum. Move on to agenda approval. Anything we need to add? Seeing none, move forward with the agenda as approved. Administrative business.
All right, we have the minutes of September 15.
Get a chance to read the minutes. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0.
And here are the change orders.
I ask it all the time.
Same.
Okay.
All right, we have early checks in the amount of $2,370.08.
Anybody have any questions with any of the warrants? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve $2,370.08? Moved by Kent,
I'll second it.
second by Dave. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Mark, I didn't.
Aye.
Okay, sorry.
I'm sorry.
I didn't verify it.
Okay, and then I just want to get some clarification on the Christmas dinner. We decided last week to go with the Legion and have them provide the meal, but I was asked if we needed to get bids, which I do have 2 bids. I'm just waiting on the Legion. Do you want me to bring those back to you, even though we told the Legion they were going to provide the meal?
Yeah, I think we should know what we're going to spend.
Okay. I will get their quote and then bring the 3 back to you.
Okay. Just a reminder of the upcoming meetings this month. There is no meeting on Monday because we have our payday meeting on Tuesday, the 30th. So that's at 9 o'clock. We will have the budget hearing for the special equipment fund that we are amending for the current year. And then we will have the Marion County leadership participants will be here, and then we'll do our regular payday. So just kind of want to make sure that, to bring that to your attention. Also, we were having a survey done of the piece of ground that we own that has the Poor Farm Cemetery on it. Just verifying that the only piece we are retaining would be that we would intend to retain, would be the approximately 50 by 50 fenced area that contains the cemetery. Is that correct? Okay, that was my understanding, but I just wanted to make sure because the surveyor's asking me, so. Okay.
The county's supposed to maintain that then?
Yes, we own it.
Yes.
And we have somebody an individual that's been taking care of that for us.
A volunteer?
What's that?
Volunteer?
Well, we're paying a little bit to have that mowed, but it's not a big amount, so. And we can't get our equipment in there because it's so narrow. For a while, we were gonna,
50 by 50, yeah.
yeah, we tried to have Road and Bridge get in there, but they didn't have any of the right stuff, so. Okay. I asked Doug to come and give a little update on the log jam, or the log jams on those bridges. We're applying for an emergency watershed protection funding, and so he can give you an update on where we are with that process.
You got the floor.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. The EWP stands for the Emergency Watershed Protection. It is a grant that we go through the state, but it's federal dollars. Reimburses us 75% for actual costs of removing the 2 drift piles that we have, one at 290th and Goldenrod, which is just west of Durham, and then another drift pile at 230th and Turkey Creek, which is 1 mile west of 77 on 230th. The application has been submitted. At this point, we do anticipate seeing an agreement from the state and the Fed combination through NRCS. Hopefully this week, maybe next week. They are up against their fiscal year 2025 deadline, which ends the end of this month. So they really want to get agreement in place, and so we can get that turned around as soon as we get it. We can't do any work on either site and have it reimbursed under this grant until the agreement is signed. So as soon as that agreement is signed, we will be able to know that all of our expenses will be reimbursed at 75% to remove that. It is a very high priority of the road and bridge. Slightly higher right now is finishing up our chip and seal. If everything stays according to plan, we have the signed agreement and we get our chip and seal where we need it to be. We're anticipating mid-October to begin the work. We will probably start on the Goldenrod location, but we may go to the 230th location. It's just trying to get it out as quick as we can.
How much more chip and seal have you got to do?
Approximately 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, as I understand it.
And that's how many miles how many miles?
I can't answer that. I don't know.
We've only got a couple full days in so far, I think.
Yeah, there's been some done, but the weather hasn't been highly cooperative.
Not at all.
What are we doing with the trees that you take out
The trees will be piled up and burned.
on the other side of the creek?
Yes.
Buried.
As long as they are not in a floodplain area, or if it's been designated as a burn area, we have not been directed to do anything with that.
And I can follow up with the commission on the chip seal miles. I don't have that information here, but I can follow up with you all if you would like.
I believe it was 20-some miles
Total
chip and seal.
or left? Total or left?
That was the total. That was what if I
Sounds-
remember right.
Sounds a little low.
27 or something like that.
I was thinking like 43 or 50. I don't know.
I think Kent is closer.
In a good year, I don't think we've ever got more than 30 miles done. So we're not starting out on the right foot, but there's nothing you can do about it.
Are they done out your way or not?
It took them 3 weeks to get that
Well, that's where they
3.5
start.
miles done. But I guess they're gonna stripe those that they get done, do you know?
I do not know.
Typically, they stripe those at the end of the season.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Doug? If not, thank you.
Thank you.
That was all I had.
First read, I'd given you 3 different resolution drafts related to the explosive regulation in terms of ongoing use. I sent a second one because I determined it was probably the most efficient to provide the broader one that covers all that the state requires anyway, that people should be complying with and that we kind of adopt as an element of what we do. And then a secondary one that's a specific permit requirement at the county level. We can assign what departments we wish to be in charge of or fielding those permits and having the opportunity to review and approve or provide input to the board before it's issued. They're somewhat self-explanatory beyond that. The second one takes into account everything that the statutory requirements already require, and then adds some things to it in terms of distances, some overall notices, et cetera. And I think that element of it is just for you to take a look at and then provide your input on it. I did the resolution for the weight vessel, I'm gonna call them, regulation, and put that together with penalties, and I should say that in the first ones as well, specific penalty sections in these, in each instance, including prohibition on further ability to put one on the water in the lake if there are repeat violations. And then finally, the other one that was discussed when Judge Sexton was here were the juror fees. We discussed the options, but I don't know that I ever got any kind of an indication, or that any of the staff did either, as to what it is that you would want to do, if anything. But I wanted to make sure it was in front of you. The minimum standard is set by the statute cited in the resolution at $10. Maximum is $50. I think he was requesting, and I had that in my notes as well, 25, because that's what was being used in some of the other counties in the same district. But we didn't get any further input beyond that, so it's there for you to consider. It can be discussed whenever you wish, but I wanted to put those 3 in front of you, well, 4 really, including the follow-up one for the permitting.
I'll get you some comments.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I just wanted to start with this so that we had something to work from. We can make them more detailed as well in terms of the broader one. We haven't adopted per se the International Building Code section that deals exclusively with explosive regulation. We could do that if you so chose. It does a lot of the same things that are already in the state statute, but it does add to it. There's some other requirements in it as well.
Will these permits be good for a year? You have to get a permit each time you do something.
Say that again, I'm
Will
sorry.
these permits be good for 1 year? Or every time you do something, you have to get a new permit?
On the county one, it's every time there's an action.
So like KDOT has to get one, well yours, and
I've written it up right now. It's as broad as it can be. That includes anybody, anytime, for any reason. And it's per occurrence.
goes on a tree stump, he needs to get one.
Yep.
How does that affect our rock quarries in the county?
Right now, it's in there. I mean, it's just, I didn't make any exceptions. I didn't make any commercial deviation from it. I can do all of that, but I started from the broadest and we narrow it down. I know what we're looking to try to address.
Big overreach here.
Yeah. But I put everybody into it so that the general activity is regulated. Now, we can certainly take pieces of it out of there, like we discussed.
Can you get one for a year?
Yeah.
You're able to,
The initial one, the requirements in terms of the state are typically going to be a year. The county one, the second one that I provided to you subsequent to these initial three, every occurrence. So that, there was a question about notice, there was a question about, do you have law enforcement involved? That kind of thing. So every time it occurs,
there should be a notice in
yeah,
the yearly one too.
so I could go ahead and make it an annual permit, but have those running requirements in it as well. Do that however you'd like. I just started with something so we could winnow it down.
If you get too much stuff off of all these other, you think about how many people use dynamite in Benton County.
Well, and then the ag purposes of it are different than commercial, but right now I just left it all in one broad category.
Should there be anything in there that includes any type of cleanup or remediation?
I can put that in, it is not right now. Yeah. The permitting requirement and a policy related to that could also cover that.
Like a building or something,
The what?
like a building or cleanup, you said.
Cleanup after the explosion.
Okay.
There's gonna be big parts
Yeah.
and little minute parts.
Read the big parts.
Surely the rock quarries are conscious enough to have a yearly permit, don't you guys think? Rather than a per item.
They're complying right now with that.
There's certain things that it's a normal operating,
Where you do business.
so. And there's a difference between, like you said, ag or normal materials from the earth, not foreign materials that are brought in. So between man-made versus not man-made.
If you dig in the basement,
I did some limited research on elements of that already. I didn't do it by volume in terms of the amount that you're using in the discharge, because a smaller amount can still be used for certain types of things like we were just discussing, and you can still have a fairly hefty cleanup and still want people to know that it's occurring. So I didn't do it that way. So I can do it by activity.
Something to think about.
I'll take it from your instruction and then figure it out as I go.
Yeah. I mean, I gotta spend some time reviewing it.
Yeah. I got, there's a couple things like, we wanna make sure that this, we're not talking about tannerite. I mean, that's actually a high explosive, but it's.
They make exceptions in the state statute
Right.
for some of those. And since I incorporated that into the broader one, that's already there, but I can specify it if you'd like,
I just wanna make sure that we're clear to the public that,
Yeah.
that we're not saying you gotta get a permit from us to go
For
for
recreational.
recreational, tannerite.
Yeah.
Or fireworks. Because there's,
Based on classification. I put some, in the specific one for the county, put a definitional section with just a few in it already as examples. We could add it there.
Yeah.
So.
need one for fireworks.
And those, again, if you go in and try to check to see Kansas law for explosive regulation, first thing that's coming up is every conceivable fireworks ordinance or resolution that's ever been drawn. So they definitely delineate to some extent. If you start using high explosives, if you start defining by what the statute requires by the fire marshal for anything that is more significant than fireworks, it's a different category and it has its own regulatory requirements.
How many other counties have a permit?
Sedgwick County has one. You don't want that one. It was 18 pages long. There's a lot more going on there, obviously, in town and in different settings and a large metropolitan area than we would ever consider having. As a result of that, I looked at theirs. But all of the general things were there, but I sure didn't want to present that to you.
Well, when when you're looking at, I mean, they use demolition downtown all the time.
Take down a building.
And you have to strictly enforce that, and we don't really have that issue here, so.
On the boats, basically, I mean, your summary of that.
Did a prohibition on using them. I've also, within a certain number of feet from the shoreline, prohibited the underlying activity in terms of the different types of wakeboards, you know, all of that, as well. I mean, I took that from about, well, part of it was just freehand, but, also from, several others that are already out there that have been tried.
It says utilizing and onboard, okay.
You went past it in the middle of the lake. You couldn't turn around
Well.
and come back.
I don't even think that's, it's number one. It says you can't utilize an onboard, so not utilizing it.
Number two refers to what I was referring to in terms of the actual activity. Wake surfing, wakeboarding, other ballast-assisted wake-enhanced boating activities. Right now, I should have highlighted that. I'm sorry, I should have done this so you can see it. I've got it within 300 feet of any shoreline, dock, marina, or designated swimming area, and in no case in waters less than 15 feet in depth. That may not work for what we want. I was sent to Isaac and get some input from him on that.
Okay.
It's a very small area.
Intentionally. Put some teeth in it that you can do in a citation. Sheriff's Department could utilize this. So could Isaac if he's designated. Up to $500 for the potential fine, and then the ability to exclude from county controlled waters for repeated violations.
Follow up on a couple other issues, Brad. I think a couple months ago I asked, you know, we passed a burn resolution in March, April, and I thought part of the commitment from the fire chief was to provide some information to the public regarding that new regulation
Summary sheet.
and I brought that up a couple months ago again, or a month and a half ago, and I still haven't. Or are they working on that, or?
Well, I've gotten responses from two, I believe, of them, and I can go ahead and follow up with them, just say, do you have anything else? Because if not, that's really all we were waiting on. Any other changes that they suggested? There were a few from the two that responded. Whether those are something you all will adopt or not, I don't know, but I kind of wanted to have all of them at the same time.
I just want to make sure that we're informing the public what that new resolution.
That was the whole intent of the draft to begin with, is just cover it.
Just want to make sure we don't forget that. And then again, back to the wind, you know, I'd asked again for some information on the lights. They're still blinking. I'm looking at Sunflower's news release from almost 2 years ago. Governor Laura Kelly, Sunflower Wind not only adds to the historic string of mega business investments in Kansas by creating jobs and driving a more private investment into our state, but will be the first project operating in Kansas to install light mitigating technology that will help preserve our night skies. And farther down here, Sunflower Wind is the first in the state to feature an aircraft detection lighting system. It uses radar to scan for aircraft. When ADLS system is installed on a wind farm, the nighttime lights on the turbine blink only when aircraft are detected, thus reducing light pollution for residents who live close enough to be able to see them. You know, we had them in here in March and kind of put them on notice that was part of their permit, was to add that ADLS system. And there was some question on whether or not it had to be functioning. Well, it's obvious from their website that they intended it to be functioning.
Tag Laura Kelly on that?
Is that press release, what date was that?
Release.
Does it show?
The press release was September 29th, 2023. That's 2 years and they're still blinking. If we charged them $500 for every turbine that blinked, we can pay for our new Peabody facility with no problem. I figured it out. If half of them didn't work half the time, that's a $15 million fine over the last 2 years. You had asked for, a summary of the operational status of those for the last 60 days. The last time we talked about this, you were gonna ask for that. I'm assuming you've not gotten anything from them.
Other than a general, I think a summary statement that had previously gone to someone, whether it was Sharon or someone else. That's all I've received from them too on that.
I mean, I still look at them every morning and every night when I go to bed. I don't know if they just leave those 5 that I can see from my house blinking just to piss me off, or what, but
I see them from my house.
There's been no admission of that.
No, you would never admit that.
anyway, if we can follow up with that, I would appreciate it.
I'll send that inquiry yet today, again.
And then, just so it's not overlooked, because really we're not changing the resolution. Really, as far as the juror fees. Are there any feelings one way or another? Keep it $10, increase it to 25, somewhere in the middle.
Both of them's a joke. I mean,
Yeah. That's what I mean, it's kind of a virtue,
do it for nothing,
so, I don't know.
but you can't replace lost wages and time.
And that it'd be way over that.
So we trailed off in the discussion, so I thought, if you don't wanna do it, fine, and it's ready whenever you do wanna do it. But if you're wanting to take action on it,
Well, no, they need an answer.
Well, it's just, yeah, we've never, he said it's been a while since we've ever had to look and see if we've ever used that fund, but we're trying to stay revenue neutral, and if we ever did, how would we be able to keep that? I don't know.
$10 won't buy lunch nowadays.
you can do the graduated system, candidly, the ones that I do, like in different counties, you call them all in. I mean, usually in the course of the morning. That's still not gonna, $10 still didn't cover any of it, but you're releasing the vast majority and paneling. So most people are there just for that first partial day or day, and then they're done. But then you have people who are committed to have to be there through the trial. And if it's most of them, by and large, the ones that I've typically done are 2, 3, 4 day kinds of things, but they can go on for weeks. The occasional one can go on for months. If you want to make provision, as he was mentioning, other jurisdictions have done, or if they are selected, seated as a juror, then we'll go to 25, or I don't know. There's any number of ways. There's nothing that precludes you. The statute simply says minimum 10 for attendance, up to 50 as a maximum.
Within the judicial district's budget, there is a line item for juror fees, and it's $3,000. And we haven't utilized that recently within their budget. It's all within their specific budget. So there are also other lines for contractual and to cover attorney fees and things like that. And so almost every year, they do not spend their entire budget, and that ends up staying with our general fund. So my recommendation I would feel comfortable moving it to $25 And we don't have jury trials that often, that, especially ones that last more than a week. And if we do have a large jury trial, we're gonna have other expenses that are gonna blow the budget besides
I think that's,
the juror fees.
the juror fees are probably are insignificant to what the rest of the trial is gonna cost the county.
Right.
I would be in support of going with, keeping it at the $10 for the initial selection process. And
25 if you're selected.
one seated for the duration of the trial at $25 per day.
I'm consensus with that, same $10.
Can we roll that
for the
money
seat.
left over into next year? Kind of build up a bank?
No, because it's in the general fund. So if they don't spend it, we automatically get it in the general fund.
You bank it.
So then, but it would cash carry over in the general fund.
Yeah, we get it back.
It's not like somebody takes it away from us.
Right,
I don't,
exactly.
so that's what Mike agrees with. Anybody else oppose that?
I'd go to 10 and 20.
You don't agree?
Uh,
You don't disagree?
No.
Okay.
So
Fine.
10 and 20 or 10 and 25?
10 and 25.
Get with 10 and 20.
10 and 25 is what Clark was saying.
Right.
Okay.
I just said 10 and 20.
I think Brad just needs to know which way to draft the resolution, so.
Everybody in favor of the 10? 25?
Yes.
Aye. Aye. No? Everybody in favor of the 10 and 20?
Aye.
3.
Come on, sir.
That's what I have. Any input that you have, you can certainly email me before, we don't have a meeting next week for that. I can send it, if I want to take action, or if they just want to do payday, doesn't have to be next week, but my point being, looking particularly at number 2 in that, the one for the lake regulation.
Yeah.
I've got the 300 feet in there and some of those things, if some of that looks unreasonable to you, let me know.
I just look at it.
Yeah, Isaac's gonna review it too. so.
Yeah.
I mean, the season's over with, so
Plus, he has a pretty good idea what those depths are, I don't. I just,
we can wait till January to issue it.
Yeah, we just don't wanna kick it down.
300 feet, you'd have to, not much of the lake you could use.
it's pretty narrow strip in the middle.
Any new information on our bridge?
We set a status conference on it for October, say the 2nd, I don't have it in front of me, but that's in front of the judge, so we'll see where we are.
Next morning should be 3 years.
All right. Anything else?
That's it.
That's it.
Okay, now we're ready for you.
If I just sit right here?
Yes, that's perfect.
Okay.
There's a couple, if you don't mind just taking one and hand it down.
I'm looking. Oh, no.
Good afternoon, everyone. I have a 1 o'clock slot. I hope you didn't have a big lunch, because this isn't the most exciting stuff. We'll keep you up if you have a big lunch, but what I'm here, Tina called and asked me if I could come down and discuss with the commission different options that you might have for financing a new, is it a new road and bridge building?
It's a combination road and bridge and ambulance station.
An ambulance, okay. So what I thought I would do is give you a little table that shows the options that the county has under Kansas statutes to finance this kind of project. Kind of go over each of them real quickly to help you maybe narrow down your choice of, if you do want to proceed with the project, what method you might want to do to finance the facility. And then talk a little bit about, what the cost or the annual payment might be if you do decide to finance this with some sort of debt or lease. The first sheet here is the one that's kind of the landscape profile here. And it's got on it the 6 different options that are available to counties in Kansas to finance these kind of facilities. And there's not one correct or one best option. I've worked with counties on pretty much all of these different types of financings. It all is just a matter of what best suits your needs. Over the years, actually, Marion County has used about 3 or 4 of these different methods of financing for different projects that you've got. Again, it was all just dependent on the nature of the project, the cost of it, what steps by statute do you have to go through to authorize the different types of financing. But real quickly, option 1 is general obligation bonds. The county issued general obligation bonds a few years ago for some road improvement projects. Those were authorized under a different statute. If you were to do a financing for a building project, it would require a public vote. Roads did not, but this would require a public vote. And it would also, general obligation bonds are bonds backed by the county's full faith and credit, unlimited taxing pledge, so they would get the lowest interest rate of all of these different financing options. Options 2, 3, and 4 are all variations of lease financing. I start with option 4. That's the most straightforward form of leasing. Basically, what this would involve is the county going out and finding a bank, either a local bank or some other bank, in the region, that would be willing to provide lease purchase financing to you for the facility. And the county did this a couple of years ago for the transfer station project. We went out and we took bids from different banks and ended up awarding the lease agreement to one of the local banks. Even though this causes it carries a higher interest rate than general obligation bonds, there are some benefits to it in that the amount of the lease wouldn't apply against the county's debt limit. There wouldn't be a requirement for a public vote, and there wouldn't be a requirement for a notice and protest period unless the payment on the lease exceeded 3% of the county's budget. And in this case, I don't think that would occur here just because of the size of the project. So that's option 4, and that's what the county used for the transfer station. Option 3, kind of working backwards here, it basically involves entering into a lease with the bank, but instead of that bank lending you their own money, what they would do is they would go out and issue, they're called certificates of participation, but they're just basically bonds that are backed by the lease payments. So it's just sort of a variation of option 4, but using bonds or certificates to secure the lease. The benefit of doing this is if you wanted to have multiple banks be involved with it, if you want to have 2 or 3 local banks all participating, you could do this option 3 here. It usually gets a little bit better interest rate than option 4, but it does involve issuing securities, there's added costs to it, and it takes a little bit more time. Option 2, typically, we only see this for much bigger projects, but counties have the ability to create public building commissions. And I actually I'm pretty sure that Marion County did this back about 20 years ago when it was first looking at financing the jail. I don't think you ever used the Public Building Commission, but I think it was created. And the way they can finance a facility is the public building could go out and issue bonds. The proceeds from that bond issue would be used to build the facility, and then the building commission would lease the facility to the county. Seems a little convoluted, but that's a mechanism that was set up in statutes to give counties, and cities for that matter, the ability to finance larger projects without having to issue general obligation bonds. And there's a notice and protest period requirement to set up the Public Building Commission, but I think you've already done that. It is a more expensive way of financing though because of the issuance costs related to it. Even though the interest rates are a little bit lower, there's more issuance costs. Finally, options 5 and 6 involve sales tax. If the county wanted to, they could go out and hold a vote and ask the citizens to implement a special sales tax. And then you could use that sales tax to repay bonds that were issued for the project. Either pure sales tax revenue bonds, bonds that are just backed by the sales tax, or, and this is what the county did when it financed the jail, originally financed the jail, you did general obligation sales tax bonds. So bonds that were first backed by the sales tax, but if the sales tax was ever insufficient, then the county would have to levy property taxes to pay. You did the sales tax general obligation bonds a few years ago to finance the jail. You never had to levy any property taxes, and it worked just fine. So I know I rushed through this really quickly. I think the transfer station, which was done under option 4, I think the reason the commission decided at the time to do that, and some of you very well could have been on the commission at the time, was because it was just a more expedient way of doing it. And it also gave the local banks the opportunity, if they offered a good interest rate, to participate and help out in the financing. So that's the different options you'd have for financing. The other page just kind of shows what the annual payment might be if you were to do a lease agreement, given different borrowing amounts and different borrowing lengths. So for instance, if you wanted to do a $1 million financing over 10 years, you just kind of follow the row in the column down there and you'd see your annual payment would be about $127,900 per year. And you can figure out with different borrowing amounts and different borrowing lengths how much that payment would change. So welcome any questions you would have about the options or the process that you would go through, or
Are these interests last week's or this week's interests?
those were estimates from last week. Yeah, and they're probably a little bit on the high side. Yeah.
If we do either 5 or 6 with the local sales tax option and going through the election, for the question, does it have to specify and commit to, I would think it would with 5 certainly. It says no pledge, I'm confused. Would we not have to pledge the sales tax?
Yes, you would have to pledge a sales tax.
Just not the property tax.
Right. The option 6 would involve both.
That's what I was, okay, I was just trying to make sure I was clear.
It's option 6, you do both, and in both cases, what you'd do is you'd be voting on the sales tax as well as the issuance of bonds, capped at a certain dollar amount. Yeah.
It was just a question for me of how we drew the question.
The valid of that.
Yeah.
The county, because you passed a sales tax for a jail already, your name is already in the statutes, and you could have a vote on a sales tax. I think what the statute said was, purpose of financing the construction or remodeling of a courthouse, jail, law enforcement center facility, or other county administrative facility. Now, I don't know if that would cover a road and bridge and EMS facility. If it doesn't cover that, then you would need to go get new legislation to give yourself authority to do it for this project, which would, you wouldn't be able to get that until early next year if you did want to, if you did need it.
The certificates of participation is interesting. In order to do that, we would probably have to call a meeting of lenders. But might save a little bit on interest rate. If there's interest in the lenders in participating in that sort of thing. We haven't done that before, but it does, you know, when you're getting into the higher dollar amounts, you can save some interest money by doing that.
Also sent out the notice to all the lenders.
Yeah, I think you'd have to have a meeting of lenders.
Yeah. And then any that are interested, you have set that up as a attend on this date at this time. Kind of thing.
Yeah, and we've done that. We've had organized meetings for lenders and described what the county's trying to accomplish and have them then say, yes, we want to.
It's an interesting concept, you know, and conceivably could save some money.
Can each individual lender take participation? I just did one in a city.
Okay.
Where they've changed it up a little bit in terms of some of the lenders had the ability to work within a pool. They took this and just put it into a pool, it's hard to describe, into a pool with a number of other lenders. So they diluted it even further. Are they able to do that in this kind of instance?
You know, what sometimes in this context, given the size of this, I was just thinking the certificates would be limited to, you know, purchased by banks, just local banks. But actually, there are bigger certificates of participation issue where not only can the banks buy them, but it's opened up to the entire universe of investors. So you could have even, you know, mom and pop, if they wanted to invest $5,000, they could even buy that. Mm-hmm. Here, given the size of this, that probably wouldn't be a very cost-effective way to do. Yeah.
That group of participants could conceivably, you could end up with a higher interest rate also.
Mm-hmm.
So the cost of issuance would be higher. How would that work? I mean,
you know, there's costs associated with all of these, doing financing costs. With a private placement, you know, the main difference in cost that you would have between a private placement and the certificates of participation is the attorney's fees. There's, you know, bond attorneys, and you've used Gilmore and Bell in the past, or at least in your recent issues. They've got a set fee that they'll charge if all they're doing is preparing or reviewing lease documents, which would be option 4. But they've got a different fee schedule if they're doing that, as well as working to issue these certificates, because they're essentially issuing securities to each of the different investors. And so their fees would be more to do that than just option 4. It could, it's hard to say, but it could be, you know, the fees for option 4 might be, I'm just gonna ballpark a figure here, $15,000. The fees for option 3 might be, you know, $25,000.
Kind of defeats your purpose of trying to get a better interest rate in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you gotta make up for that added cost.
And it would be different if we only had 3 lenders in this county, but we've got more than that. Still think the lease purchase private is the best route.
Seems to be the simplest.
Yeah, and the unassociated cost we don't have a handle on.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, overall, these 6 options, when you look at, you know, number 1, those with an election requirement, that obviously costs you money. With, you're talking about the issuance cost, is there a general sense of, you know, say for $1 million,
Yeah, the issuance,
what's the overall?
the issuance cost is gonna be the least on option 4.
Yeah.
Because in that instance, really the only issuance costs are bond counsel's fee that I mentioned before, legal counsel, as well as our fee, the ones who would help you go out and find the leasing company or the bank to use. After that, the second lowest in fees would be the general obligation bonds or the general obligation sales tax bonds, options 1 and 6. The highest fees would be options 2, 3, and 5, because those all involve either leases or revenue bonds that are more complicated, and they involve attorneys issuing additional opinions. They're just more complex transactions, so it's just a higher fee, yeah.
In option 1 and 6, you'd also have the cost of the election to throw in there in the mix.
Yeah, and five would have the election also.
Right.
If you're doing bigger projects,
Yeah.
you know, then that would dilute what that actually equates to in the whole scheme of things.
Yeah, exactly. That's what options, yeah, the ones that have the higher issuance costs are usually the ones that you don't see utilized for smaller financing, because there's just sort of a minimum amount of costs on some of those, but they make sense when you're doing a much bigger financing, like for a jail or a new courthouse or something.
Thinking, but it's good to hear it from somebody.
Yeah, right. It's good to go through all the different steps.
We have to decide if they're gonna even do it.
Right.
If we can man it and
Right.
use it.
Oh, this is all that information. We got some other things to iron out. that goes
Okay.
With this, so.
That's
Thanks for the information, appreciate it.
Let me know.
Yep, I will do. Thank you.
And it wasn't boring.
It wasn't.
Thank you. Oh, commission comments?
I just found out this morning, I haven't been able to verify anything yet, but I understand that with all the activities that went on in Marion County on Saturday, that northern Marion County was left without an ambulance. Tampa was called to the south part of the county, and I don't know where. I think that, you know, when we have events going on, maybe there needs to be some more strategic planning or something coming out of EMS. 'Cause, you know, there's not that as many people in the northern part of the county, but it's a big area. And I was kind of alarmed that we had no coverage. And like I said, I haven't verified that, so.
They went to Hillsborough and then a football game.
How much? I mean, I stay away from Hillsborough on the craft fair, but how many, you know, how many calls there were, how much?
I didn't hear
I
of
mean, I didn't hear
any major events.
I didn't hear any ambulance.
So, I mean,
One of the first years they didn't have one, is what Mickey said just earlier today.
I mean,
Probably due to the temperature more than anything.
fortunately, yeah, it was a cool day and you have people passing out, but, you know, to leave a whole northern part of Marion County uncovered shouldn't be.
No, it shouldn't.
On this same subject, if we're going to stand by at a football game, even a Tabor football game for $50, sending our ambulance and 2 personnel, that fee seems to be quite inadequate, in my opinion, severely inadequate. For what our schools
That's another issue.
take in taxes, that $50 is, and if we're talking about especially our Tampa volunteer crew, when they get to run, for them to spend an afternoon for $20 or something for a run even. I mean, I think you could double that, make part of that go to the actual crews taking the runs as pay, in my opinion, but then that's,
We got a lot of football games to cover.
surely Tabor College can afford more than $50 to have an ambulance there.
We might have to look at that different than the school districts, but, you know, I don't know.
It's just a thought of, I was quite shocked to realize that that's that low a fee.
I don't.
It hasn't been increased in forever, so. Just a thought of, with costs today, how we can send a crew to do a standby for $50 for any event.
Did that?
Just a thought.
Yeah. Let's review it. Let's look at it.
You know, last month, Liberty Township passed a resolution. This month, East Branch Township passed that same resolution. I'm not gonna read the whole thing again. I'll give it to Sharon to add, or to Ashley to add to the minutes, but basically the same resolution resolving that East Branch Township Board, on behalf of the residents of the township, opposed any development of industrial scale wind energy conversion systems within East Branch Township. And that was passed on September 11th, 2025, and there is no budget.
East Branch and Liberty.
Right.
Last on my list is a thank you from the Lincolnville Oktoberfest for the $1,000 that gets taxed for our festival or whatever we're having there, I guess. I wanted to be thanked for, thank us for that donation. Makes a big difference in what they can do. It's well appreciated.
Others? Motion to adjourn. Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0.